Between 1999 and 2005, Lance Armstrong won 7 consecutive Tour de France titles. Many people considered this accomplishment to be one of the most iconic feats in sports history, but others weren't convinced. They believed that Armstrong's performances seemed too good to be true. For years, Armstrong was the target of a list of doping allegations, which he successfully denied. But by 2010, a federal investigation of Armstrong began after former teammate Floyd Landis accused him of cheating. 2 years later, in 2012, the U.S. anti-doping agency, USADA, officially charged Armstrong with doping. It wasn't until 2013 that Armstrong told the truth. During an interview with Oprah, he admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs to win all 7 Tour de France championships. In the end, Armstrong was stripped of all 7 titles. He received a lifetime ban from professional cycling and lost an estimated $150 million in future endorsement income. To make matters worse, Armstrong had to pay the U.S. government $5 million to settle a civil lawsuit. I know that Armstrong's story is extreme, but it's a textbook example of what can happen when you continually make poor decisions. In Armstrong's case, he descended from the ranks of an American hero to nothing more than a fraud, and his decisions had a devastating effect on his career, legacy, and reputation. Unfortunately, it's not always easy to identify why you're making poor decisions, and as a result, you too can get trapped in a cycle of making poor choices. So in this video, I want to explain why you might get stuck in a pattern of making bad decisions and then teach you how to break out of that cycle. Let's start by talking about why you make bad decisions. Reason number 1 is you're fueled by greed. We all have a natural desire to succeed, and it's this inclination that motivates us to stay alive, create meaningful relationships, and build successful careers. In appropriate doses, the desire to succeed is helpful, but the feeling can also get you into trouble. Greedy people have an excessive and uncontrolled desire for success, and that leads them to make poor decisions. Armstrong's story perfectly illustrates this point, and in his case, his excessive desire for fame, success, and money influenced him to spend an entire career cheating and lying. Reason number 2 is bad decisions often feel good. For millions of years, our ancestors were continually threatened by predators, starvation, and illness. As a result, one of their biggest daily challenges was simply staying alive. For this reason, your brain evolved to reward you for performing behaviors that increase your odds of short-term survival. This is why we find eating, sleeping, and sex so enjoyable. Now, when we still lived in caves, this reward system worked well. And that's because if you didn't know when you were going to get your next meal, it made sense to eat yourself into a food coma. Because of this, many behaviors that offer short-term rewards now have long-term consequences. For example, many of us have the ability to eat ourselves into a food coma on a daily basis. And because doing so feels good, many people do. But as you know, if you continue this behavior long-term, it will have a negative effect on your health and weight. So if you find yourself continually chasing the high of a short-term reward, then there's a good chance that you're making bad decisions. Reason number 3 is you're not thinking. Logical thinking is time-consuming and hard work, and for this reason, many people avoid it and instead rely on instinct, intuition, and snap judgments. In some cases, this tendency is helpful. If you need to buy a new toaster, it would be a complete waste of your time to do a competitive analysis on the top 10 toasters. So in this case, it makes sense to be lazy and simply buy the highest rated toaster on Amazon. But this tendency can also get you into trouble by making you vulnerable to cognitive biases like the bandwagon effect. The bandwagon effect is our tendency to do something primarily because other people are doing it. And while this is helpful when buying a toaster on Amazon, it was harmful for those who got caught up in the 2008 housing crisis. Reason number 4 is your ego is holding you back. People who have an overinflated ego have a hard time admitting their mistakes. And that's because people who suffer from egotism never want to be wrong. As a result, these people lose their ability to learn from failure, which leads them to make the same mistakes over and over again. This problem explains why an entrepreneur might continue to sink money into a failing business, and a cancer patient might continue to smoke after a diagnosis. Reason number 5 is sometimes good decisions are painful. Assume that you're single, lonely, and want nothing more than to be in a relationship. You go on a first date and it goes okay, but there's red flags. Then a week later, you get asked on a second date. If you're looking at the situation from the outside, this seems like an easy decision to make. Because there were red flags, declining the date seems like the obvious thing to do. But from the inside, this decision isn't so clear. By saying no to the second date, you guarantee that you'll continue to be single and lonely. This is a case where you get punished for making the right decision. Unfortunately, this is where many people slip up. By saying yes to the second date, you get to stop feeling lonely. And because this reward is so enticing, many people choose to look past the red flags. But don't kid yourself. Dating someone who isn't a good fit to avoid feeling lonely is settling. And while settling might solve your short-term pain, it will create far greater long-term problems. All right, now that you know why you make bad decisions, here are 5 ideas that can help you make better decisions. Idea number 1 is end greed with empathy. As you saw with Lance Armstrong, greedy people have an excessive desire for personal gain, even when that comes at the expense of others. Research by neuroeconomist Paul Zak explains why. Zak's work shows that greedy people don't care for others like most people do. Thankfully, you can become more compassionate by developing empathy, which is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. One way to develop more empathy is by resisting the urge to stereotype. Because getting to know someone is hard work, many people take the path of least resistance and resort to stereotyping. Unfortunately, this doesn't allow you to create the type of personal connection that helps build empathy. To avoid this problem, you can make a conscious effort to get to know someone instead of assuming that you know everything about them. Idea number 2 is focus on long-term rewards. It's natural to want to feel good in the moment, but as you've learned, chasing short-term highs can lead to long-term problems. To avoid this issue, you can focus on long-term rewards. Here are 2 examples. If you want to increase your odds of saying no to the short-term rewards of watching television, you can focus instead on the long-term rewards of reading 30 minutes per day. Or if you're lonely, you can increase your odds of saying no to a date with the wrong person by focusing instead on the long-term rewards of being available when the right person comes along. Idea number 3 is drop the ego. Nobody likes to be wrong, but failure is one of the best educators. Now, when you're humble enough to learn from your mistakes, you become wiser. And as a result, you increase your odds of finding future success. If you're having a hard time accepting failure, here's an idea that you can try. Rather than focus on what the failure says about your reputation, instead, focus on what the failure offers to teach you. Idea number 4 is walk around the shit. I studied martial arts for years as a child, and during that time, our grandmaster taught me a lesson about decision-making that I'll never forget. He used the following analogy to make his point. If you're walking down the sidewalk and you encounter dog shit, you have 2 options. You can walk through it, or you can walk around it. Now, when you walk through it, you're creating an unnecessary problem. But when you choose to walk around it, you're avoiding the problem altogether. This lesson applies to all areas of life. You can prevent so many problems and bad decisions by simply avoiding them in the first place. You can prevent most fights by not engaging. You can fix so many financial problems by simply not overspending. And you can fix many health problems with a healthy diet and exercise. And idea number 5 is develop a failure plan. To develop a failure plan, you begin by thinking about what could go wrong. Then you decide what you'll do if it does. This is helpful for 2 main reasons. First, by thinking about what could go wrong, you make better initial decisions. And second, you're able to take immediate and deliberate action when you encounter a problem. I can't thank you enough for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful. Now, I am shamelessly trying to grow this channel, so it would mean the world if you could subscribe, like, and share the video. Believe it or not, it takes over 100 hours to make these videos, so any help would be greatly appreciated. If you want more information like this, I highly recommend you check out my app, Aware. Aware is a self-improvement based meditation app that teaches you important skills like how to make better decisions, build good habits, and develop more self-confidence. The app combines all of those lessons with guided meditation, which helps you develop the state of mind and self-awareness needed to apply what you've learned. On top of that, you also get the benefits of meditation, like improved focus and sleep, plus a reduction in negative emotions like stress, anxiety, and sadness. So if you like the type of content you see on this channel and self-improvement in general, then I think you'll love Aware. It's available on iOS, Android, and the web, and you can get started today for free with the links below in the description. As a final note, I've also got a list of helpful resources linked below, like a transcript of this video that covers all of the ideas I shared today in a clear and organized format. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.